Hi everybody, Rich Leiter here. Today I'd like to talk about using sarcasm and using irony and using satire and using deadpan humor in art. Now sometimes when a writer, thinking about writing particularly, when a writer writes, it is appropriate to take what they say at face value. But at other times, one has to question whether what's being literally said should be taken at face value, and to ask oneself, is the writer being ironic? Is he being sarcastic? Is he being satirical, and so forth? It's very important to know that, or otherwise you will not be able to appreciate a great deal of literature, and you won't be able to have access to it on its deepest level. The reason for being satirical or sarcastic or saying something which appears to be one thing but which really means just the opposite, the reason that writers do that, or should do that in my opinion, is not to get a rise out of their readers. It's not to make fools of their readers or to trick their readers. The reason why they employ such devices as satire and parody and deadpan and dry wit, bone-dry wit, the reason they do it is because these are all tools in a writer's and artist's toolbox. And sometimes the most appropriate way of driving home one's point is by using satire or using sarcasm. Sometimes that is a much more devastating way of showing one's contempt about a given subject than just by saying something directly. A writer who is being satirical or tongue-in-cheek does not announce to the public, okay, reader, okay, public, now in this passage, I'm going to be tongue-in-cheek. Okay, here we go. Well, if you do that, there's no point in being tongue-in-cheek, right? So sometimes you must use these tools. This is why most of the movies, comedies, so-called comedies in commercial Hollywood films, have such a vulgar, lowbrow, Three Stooges kind of humor to them. You'll see movies where you have people fart, they excrete things. I saw one movie where the main character in this comedy was in a swimming pool, and he had just finished eating some tacos, and he's in the swimming pool, and he has a bowel movement there. That's supposed to be funny. And it is kind of funny in a very crude way. I laughed at it. However, this is a very crude kind of humor. And the reason why this humor is so prevalent in so-called commercial comedies is because the people who make the movies want the comedy to appeal to the broadest amount of the public, section of the public as possible, so that the movie will be popular and so that they will make money off of the movie. So their whole approach they take to comedy is let's try to make the most people laugh. And the way that we can make the most people laugh is by being extremely unsubtle. And this is the nature of most comedy. they won't take a chance in many cases in being satirical, in being deadpan. In some they will, but in most it won't, because they realize that this will completely pass over the heads of the public, and it won't be laughed at. So it's not a good gamble to be too deadpan or too satirical or sarcastic. They'd rather resort to lowbrow humor. Now, the kind of films that I like that are comedic, for instance, there's a movie out called Factotum. I think it's a Norwegian movie based on the novel Factotum by Charles Bukowski. To me, this is the height of comedy. It's very deadpan, which makes it hysterical for me. Of course, this kind of humor will not be appreciated by most people, but it is for me. It's the best kind of humor because it's not stooping. It's not tapping the audience on the shoulder and saying, hey, look, I'm going to be funny now. It doesn't work like that. So, the purpose of being satirical and deadpan and tongue-in-cheek is to drive home a point in a much more effective way than by getting on a soapbox and saying it directly. And it behooves the reader, the sensitive reader, to know when to take that which is being written at face value and when not to. This is critical. This is critical. And this is also critical not just in literature, but in life. If you accept everything at face value, well, then you become a mark. You become gullible. This is what has happened to the world in general. We tend to be so gullible, the general public. We take everything at face value. Those who are the evildoers, for lack of a better term, take advantage of us and take advantage of the gullibility of those who only will accept things at face value. You hear a speech by a politician and you accept it at face value. This is the way it works. Recently, the man with the orange or the red, the yellow wig dodged a bullet, and I'm glad he dodged the bullet. We don't want to see anybody killed. However, as soon as this happens, this person has now been catapulted to Messiah status. People are irrationally placing him on the level of a god. And they will vote for him as if they are voting for a god. And as that is not the way to vote. You vote not because you're being gullible or because you're voting by swept up by emotion. You vote on issues. You look at them dispassionately and you ask yourself, is this the person I want to vote for? And I don't see, with very few exceptions, I see absolutely nobody questioning the Messiah-like status of this particular person. And to me, this is all part of the same thing. This is part of people having lost the ability, if they ever had it, to step back and to ask, is this real? Is it not real? Should I accept it at face value? Should I step back and realize that the person is being ironical or tongue-in-cheek or extremely deadpan? People have lost that ability. And when you lose that ability, life becomes very grim. I look at people on the internet, YouTube particularly, and almost everything I see there is extremely flat, one-dimensional. There is no irony, there is no wit, there is no tongue-in-cheek. There are just people grasping to sell you on the pseudo-information that they have for you. It's a very direct goal that they have to garner attention. That's it. You have people who give talks on geopolitics who are just speculating, but who are trying to sell you on the idea that they know what they're talking about. It's very direct. It's very simple. Here, look what I have to say. All of these egos clamoring for attention. No wit, no sarcasm, no irony, no parody. Everything is flat, one-dimensional, and extremely grim. And when I come away from the internet, I come away thinking that humanity is hopeless, that we are an extremely gullible, superficial, and botched race. The older I get, the more I feel that way. I listen to lectures sometimes on different philosophers on the internet. I listen to professors talking about the philosophy of different luminaries. And I have to ask myself, why? What for? If we live in this kind of a world where people can't even understand that you cannot take everything at face value, if people are that gullible and dumbed down, what is the purpose of learning the intricacies of some philosopher's philosophy? What relevance does it have to our life? You have to crawl before you can walk. Before we get to these elevated ideas by all of these philosophical luminaries, let's start with the basics first, of being able to think for ourselves, of being able to think in a discriminating fashion, in being able to tolerate solitude. This also, I see, is completely missing in our culture. We just can't tolerate solitude. And if you can't tolerate solitude or welcome solitude, you'll never learn anything at all. You're doomed from the start. You're shot dead in the water from the start. All I see are small minds who are eager to get shortcuts to everything. This is ridiculous. This is petty. This is trivial. And this is all that I see. Now, the great danger in what I'm saying is this. I don't consider myself to be some kind of a genius or some kind of a special person, better than the rest of the crowd. But when I look at the internet and I look around me in my general surroundings, just in general from my life experience, and I see the extent to which people have been zombified and dumbed down, there is the danger of my getting a swell head, of thinking that I am better than other people. And I have to remind myself that it's not that I'm better than them, that I'm smarter than them. It's just that by comparison to the level to which they have been dumbed down, it would appear that I am. It's not that I'm so great. It's that they're so dumb. You know, another thing I've seen is that people do not want to improve themselves. When they find something difficult, they want it to be easy. If you write something which is subtle, which is challenging, which is well crafted, which is delicate, but which is not understood by most people because they have become too dumbed down to appreciate it, they don't want to work to rise to your level. They want you to stoop to their level. I have found this in general. I'm not just talking about myself. They want you to stoop. They don't want to work to rise. And you know, there's an old saying, Chinese saying, when you have two glasses and one of them is clear water and the other glass is muddy water, if you try to pour the clear water into the muddy water, the muddy glass of water will not become clearer. What will happen is that the clear water will become muddy. So that's it. I am disgusted with mankind. Always have, and I see no reason not to continue to be disgusted by it. The only question is, once one realizes this, once one really appreciates just how botched this species is, the question is, well, we're here. Unless you're planning on killing yourself, which most of us aren't. I'm not planning on killing myself. Well, how do you live your life? How do you live your life joyfully? That's the real $64,000 question. I guess different people, I don't have a pat answer for it. Everybody, I suppose, who's aware of this issue has their own answer for it. I have my own answer, but somebody else may have another one. And I suppose they're all good if they all enable you to live life joyfully. That's the $64,000 question. And I'll leave you with that question to ponder, which I still ponder with and battle with all of the time. Thank you.